Henry McClure live in Topeka, Kansas. I'm coming to you today as a stockholder. I have a very small stake in the Washington Prime group, but I have a deep interest in the mall, the Westridge Mall in Topeka, Kansas, for a lot of reasons. For one reason, first and foremost, as a real estate broker in Topeka, Kansas. As a citizen in Topeka who wants to preserve the sales tax that is generated out of the Westridge Mall. And noticed I did put my commissions first because, yeah, that's important. Then thirdly, as a shareholder who would like to see, my stock gain in value and see to it that I get a return on my investment as a shareholder. So I'd like to introduce myself to you, and I want to couch this conversation as if I were talking to the leasing committee at the Macerich Company. We used to have leasing meetings quite often, monthly, once I moved out to California, with May Siegel, Dane Anderson, Dane Smith, Steve Roush, the West Coast office of the Macerich Company. We'd meet at the Lakewood Mall. It was usually a 2-day affair, and it was really fun. It was interesting. You'd get to present your properties and present your deals on a space by space and a deal by deal basis, and actually sell it to the leasing committee. So a real quick resume on Henry McClure. Who is this guy? I went to work for the Macerich Company in 1983. I was the third guy to join the management training program, and they shipped me from Topeka to Winter Park, Florida, because they knew guys from Topeka, hey, we wouldn't mind relocating. And I was there for a very short time, and actually I didn't like it, but I read on the Macerich happenings on the third day of working for the company. They had this big project in Boulder, Colorado, and it was a private-public partnership between Boulder and Macerich, and we literally built a mall on a mall. And I got to go to work, from Winter Park, Florida. I was only in Winter Park 2 weeks. I got to go to Boulder, and I started off as a tenant construction coordinator. And we had so many leases going at one time, and it was so important to be able to get the stores open on time to meet a deadline of an August grand reopening of the Crossroads Mall, the phase 2 expansion. And what a great time. This was really a great time in the mall business, and it was a great time at Macerich, and it was a great time for Henry McClure to really know and understand what mall shopping center leasing was. So I worked in the management side, but I reported to the leasing committee, because getting the store plans in and getting the stores open, Mace always said that rents are a product of sales. So we've got to do everything we can to get the stores open, and to all personal sacrifice to make sure the tenants get open and paying rent and doing sales. So with that in mind, let's fast forward to the pizza pub lease. And this goes back to when Simon owned the mall, and Chris Tilley was going to be the leasing agent here in Topeka. And the main reason I convinced my partners to doing the deal in the pizza pub lease deal was because Chris had represented that he was going to move to Topeka, and then we were going to have, for the first time, local leasing on site making deals. And I really looked forward to this because I know a lot more about mall leasing than Chris Tilley. I know a lot more about leasing in Topeka, Kansas than Chris Tilley. But so I was anxious to be able to represent Pizza Pub to Simon and get the deal approved. So and Pizza Pub's idea was to put a state of the art place into the Westridge Mall and create a showpiece to be able to show mall leasing people, because my financial partner had the wherewithal to be able to open up more stores, and we wanted to put our best foot forward. So we got Greg Schwert involved, the Schwert Design Group involved, and we built a state of the art pizza facility in a store. But let's talk about first getting the lease done with Pizza Pub, because this took 1 year to get the lease fully executed. And let's take a step back. The fact that okay, we went from Simon to Washington Prime, and basically our lease got lost in the shuffle. But so after a year to get the first lease signed, they came to us. The leasing guy at the time was Ben Dicer, and Ben said, "Hey, we will give you all the space next to Pizza Pub at no extra rent, and the same net charges if you'll just build a bigger store." So we contemplated it. It wasn't going to affect our overall rent. It was more space than we really needed, but we figured we could utilize it by expanding the seating area, and so we went for the deal. We got Schwert Design involved, and throughout the construction period, man, we really ran into a very expensive problem. And you got to maybe blame the leasing guy, me, for not catching the fact that because at Mace Rich and if I missed the deal, well, yeah, shame on me. But we were required to do $75,000 in lease required construction, which was over and above city code. And there was just no way to renegotiate that. There was just no way to get it changed. And there was no reprieve in rent reduction. There was no giving extra construction allowance. We did receive a $225,000 construction allowance. And we knew going into it, we weren't going to get more based on taking the extra space. But anyway, so we went for it. And I think all total, we spent around $600,000 in monies to build the store out, right around 600. I have to double check it. And we get open. And we get going. And I don't really know how to tell the timeline of these 3 deals, because they're all interwoven. The Great Life deal, Great Life was a catalyst to get the freezing roll deal, but Great Life was also going to be a really big saving grace to Pizza Pub. So I guess I'm going to try to give you a timeline to the best of my knowledge of how things unfolded. So let's set the Pizza Pub side, the Pizza Pub deal along side, and we're up and going, and we're opening Pizza Pub as things progress in the story. Let's focus first back on to the space we took originally. It was an old bank location that had probably sat vacant for 10 years. And we had a safe that we had to demo, and then we blew out a patio, uh, and it's really a nice looking store. So it took a year to get the lease fully signed, the first lease, and then it took 11 months to get the store built because we had to move a nail salon, and that just took time. So from the day we got started till the day we opened, imagine 1 year and 11 months in time frame, aggravation over kind of some construction costs we weren't expecting. Chris Tilley leaving the company, and really not a lot of activity from the leasing front, and kind of hard to get information to really what was going on. You know, uh, when I was a mall leasing guy at Macerich, we were pretty open about information. Sales figures were our tools to make deals, and I'll admit I operated a little in the dark, but I had faith because what I really believed in was Henry McClure. I believed that with my experience in leasing and their lackadaisical approach to leasing, that I could be the solution. Um, Unbeknownst to me, uh, Ben had put the property in Peoria over Westridge, and it's like if you could get him on the phone, he was in Peoria, and but I did get him to Topeka one time to meet my Great Life guys, and Ben's a pleasant guy. Uh, he's a good guy, and he bought into the Great Life deal, and appreciate that. Now, Great Life, if you look at if you look what Luke and Forty talks about as far as the ability to diversify the portfolio, I think the Great Life deal was the deal that Luke and Forty dreamed of. And I just don't know. I don't know if I don't really know how the company works. So, my relationship was with Mason Dana personally. And, Art would sit in on meetings, and you knew Eddie. I always thought I wanted to be an acquisition guy. But anyway, that aside, don't mean to digress. But I'm used to having personal relationships with the partners of the company, and Macerich having a really hands-on approach, and not a lot of hierarchy. Um, Lou seems to be an asset manager, and I think he totally lacks experience. A street leasing guy is what the mall industry needs today more than ever. But leasing is the driver of the industry, the mall industry, the real estate industry. Leasing is where it's at. I knew the minute Butch Kinnear, it seemed like he left in a huff. I knew that was really going to be the game changer for, let's say, the future downfall of the company, which I feel could be imploding from a leasing standpoint. But I'm just looking at it under a microscope as it relates to Topeka, Kansas. And this is just one man's opinion representing or exercising my rights under the First Amendment of the Constitution of America, speaking out to the other shareholders who need to hear a story. Because if this is indicative of how the company operates in other towns, well, look, the way I look at it, it's just a matter of time before this property gets sold. And I'd like to be the guy to try to buy it because I still think there's hope in fixing the property. So let's focus back in on Great Life. So my assignment was to get a Wanamaker location and for Great Life because another fitness center was coming to town, and we wanted to get out ahead of them and get a presence on Wanamaker. And I convinced the guys to go, the Great Life guys to go to the mall. And let me tell you what, that was a sales job. And I really appreciate the Great Life Golf and Fitness guys. They are good. And man, do I personally feel like I let them down. And personally, I feel that I aggravated so many people at Washington Prime that it's detrimental to all these deals because of me exercising the First Amendment right. But there's a lot of frustration that I've got. And I always had, I didn't fit in the management side at Macerich, and I pissed a lot of Macerich managers off. Leasing and management collided a lot. There used to be a saying, Confucius say, always easier for he who doesn't have to do. And a lot of guys in management think they can sure outperform the leasing guys. And, until you've really got to make a living, deal by deal, it's a whole different ballgame. But what I liked about the Great Life deal, this is what was beautiful about Great Life, was their membership. And, we sent some sensitive information about the Great Life's membership to Washington Prime, and also this deal was contingent upon getting some funding from the economic development. And I think I had a tough sell in convincing JEDO, the Joint Economic Development group, to fund this deal. But I never had the opportunity to try. And that's really what was disappointing. So after 7 or 8 months of negotiating the deal, and I was just like worn out. I'm physically, I'm mentally and physically worn out. And, I'm thinking, and personally, what I'm thinking about is how am I going to make a living in the real estate business when this is, I'm the best mall leasing guy in Topeka. I think I'll go up against any mall leasing guy at Washington Prime. Babe Ruth said, if you can do it, it isn't bragging. My forte with Macerich was finding local people and convincing them to go to the malls. I had great relationship with national leasing guys because they liked dealing with me because I didn't twist their arm and milk them out of every nickel. Mace was always about making a fair deal. So hey, you sit down with the USU guy and you make a reasonable deal, and then they get used to dealing with you. What I had trouble telling with the locals was, it was easier dealing with national tenants because you had to get convinced that that the deal was fair. So the local guy is always thinking, well, you're going to extort more out of me than you do the national guy. Well, hey, look, Mr. Local Guy, it's easier getting rent out of the national guy because they know the norm of what's going on in the industry. And let me tell you, getting the Great Life people to agree to the deal that Washington Prime was willing to make, which, by the way, was an awesome deal. I loved the deal. And actually, from a rent standpoint, so as I go on the roller coaster of my relationship with the Washington Prime Group, it's like, wow, they really reached to make the Great Life deal. And I'm trying to tell the Great Life guy that they really reached. But what happened was the new health club that opened up, they were able to buy the land and build the building and get it almost 90% complete even before I could get the lease executed. And that's wrong. When you think of the square footage that sits vacant out there, I think it was 8 months easily to get the lease done. Now, when I worked for Mason Dana, man, you're doing these deals in 20, 30 days. I mean, you didn't want to come back to the next leasing meeting and not have your deal done. You might make it through one meeting, like, if there was extenuating circumstances. Well, I'll tell you one deal that uh, uh, Ray Bewley was a friend of mine. So it took 1 year to get the Carl's Jr. deal, but the lawyer got fired. The Carl's Jr. lawyer got fired, but Mace was friends with Carl's Jr. and Carl Karcher, and he gave me a pass on that deal. But time kills deals. You got to get deals done. The momentum that you need to fill up shopping centers. But here's the thing about what Great Life was going to do, this is why I thought I could get the Jetto people to approve it, was they were going to give away free visitors passes to anybody from outside Shawnee County. And Visit Topeka was going to help us put them in hotel rooms. And so we were going to reach, the game plan was to go to other corporations that have people come from out of town, get them to go to the mall. And then as a pizza pub, we were going to have a deal where, there was going to be some cooperative cross marketing on a deal by deal, case by case basis. So the idea was to build a community patio and a place for all the not-for-profit people to do a deal, or to be able to use it free of charge. And actually, that would have created a job for somebody. So I didn't do a good job for Great Life because I didn't put enough language in there to go through the political process. So by the time the lease is finally signed in November, we've just gone through an election cycle. There's new people need to get sweared in. So the people that you got to take the deal to get the public funds to do the deal, it's all changed. And I should have, I had faith that, based on the vacancy factor, that somebody would at least have some compassion to give me a little extra time to go through the process. Now, again, I'm saying I may never would have got that through, but I might have. But I never had the opportunity to do it because it seemed like what happened was that when Ben turns over the leasing to Mr. Paul Katz, it's like, okay, we're gonna terminate that deal, and we're not going to do that deal. And we were promised a rent concession at Pizza Pub, and we never got that by Ben and by Paul. And it's been 2 years. It's been 2 years that we've asked to be replaced on Pizza Pub. So now, in the meantime, while I'm doing Great Life, while I'm still trying to get out of Pizza Pub, simultaneously, I do this deal with this company called Freezing Roll. So Freezing Roll is this really cool concept. There's so one of the guys that's involved with this is involved with a company in Kansas City called Freezing Moo, and it's a Thai ice cream concept. It's like It's like hibachi, but with ice cream, but it's fresh. I mean, even though I'm lactose intolerant, I tried the ice cream and because it's just off the hook. It's so fresh, no preservatives. They make it right in front of you. It's fun. It's entertainment. I mean, that's what people like. I mean, um, I as a kid, I always wanted to know how things work, and I will tell you, as a professional, I like the way the leasing committee worked at Macerich a lot better than the leasing committee at Washington Prime. I've had so much better luck. So, and that's not slander, but freezing rolls. We get the lease signed. It took 8 to 9 months to get that lease done too. All three leases took an average of 8.67 months to get signed. And so Henry McClure, as the real estate broker, is so frustrated because I can't get any momentum, to get a bunch of people behind me to, um, to keep the deals going and flowing. So the deal with freezing rolls was we were going to have to relocate the security office, and they paid a healthy rent, and they were going to get a $50,000 in free rent and $50,000 in TI. Well, as time marched on, I was really trying to get freezing roll to focus on Westridge, and as we got the lease signed, the lease sat on the attorney's desk for like 34 days unsigned, and I'm just like, oh my god, because I had freezing rolls teed up, ready to go to get construction going, and 34 days killed me. I was actually not allowed in the space. Now here's the interesting thing about freezing rolls. So I was hired as to be the developer on behalf of freezing rolls to make sure the store got open and built, and my ability to get plans in and get them approved and get the right, I got the contacts with the general contractor, the subcontractor. We found out by touring. I met the guys, the local guys, the Murray's and Son guys. They were telling me about a leak. There's a leak right there where freezing rolls was going, and I actually had my architect draw plans up to mitigate the damages of the leak because we weren't going to go into the space. We wanted to put a storefront there. The roof drain was draining back into the security office and creating problems. And I didn't want to build a brand new freezing rolls and have water damage at the get-go. And it was brain damage negotiating that. It was brain damage negotiating in the Great Life deal and in freezing rolls just to get the ability to have city code be the ruling factor, over mall, the mall code. It's it's not like you're going to save a nickel on insurance. As long as the stores are built up to city code, you're not going to get a better premium. So anyway, I literally tried to get into the space with my architect and wasn't allowed in the space at freezing rolls because we didn't have a fully executed lease. And that whole thing turned into a debacle. And, for some reason, the security guard later on got terminated. And I think the security guard got fired because he was nice to me. And I apologize to him and his family, but I sure appreciate his friendship. I'm not going to go into any further speculations and what I heard in the rumor mill, um, because that horse is already out of the barn. So today, Freezing Rolls still wants to go to the mall. We still want to be a tenant in Westridge Mall. When I got the Freezing Rolls people over to the mall and showed them the space, we walked through it of their own free will and accord. They elected to take the pizza pub location. I couldn't have orchestrated it any better, being one of the owners of Pizza Pub, to mitigate my damages. Hey, let me tell you something. You can't tell the Freezing Rolls guys what to do. Hey, that was their idea. Less tenant finish. You gotta, hey, just remove all your pizza equipment. We want to redo the floors, get everything out of there. We'll go back in, clean it all up. We'll come in with a new design package. We've already got the patio out there. It's not leaking. We don't have to worry about any of those issues. So from leasing guys, from an ownership side on the pizza pub, I got my damages mitigated because Freezing Roll wants to assign the space. As McClure Real Estate, hey, I should get the second half of my commission because they're going to open. From a Freezing Roll standpoint, the assignment was their idea. I'm just trying to get them into the mall. They still want to open stores and they want to be a part of it. From a stockholder standpoint, I like the idea of putting Freezing Rolls in Pizza Pub because, number one, I don't got to relocate the security office. That's a savings of about $200,000. And number two, I don't got to give Freezing Roll a construction allowance. Save money there. And plus, in the long run, I shouldn't be putting the security office down the main mall of my fashion anchor, Dillard's. You're in trouble when security guards' office get the main mall space. There's something wrong with the merchandising mix. Somebody has made a mistake along the way, especially when you've got as much vacancy as you got. Your security guards should just be sharing space in the mall office, and you're trying to lease as much space as you can at fair market to people that want to be there. The less space you guys got in, maintenance shops, management offices, security offices, the more GLA you got to turn into income. So from a professional standpoint who's been leasing malls, I got my first leasing assignment in Chattanooga, Tennessee in 1984 on the $10 million renovation of the Eastgate Mall down in CBL territory. That was a fun project. 65 leases, $2.2 million in extra on new income. Actually did the first Lens Crafters deals back there. Back then, US Shoe had just bought Lens Crafters. But anyway, from a merchandising standpoint, the Freezing Rolls deal makes sense. So, hey, look, I might have bruised some egos and been a little curt with some of the people in the management, but they're very thin-skinned. But the true breaking point for me personally when I was meeting with one of the members of Go Topeka and the Chamber of Commerce and talking about getting the funding for the Great Life deal. And I got my architect sitting there. I'm glad I had a witness. It doesn't matter. But when they asked me, what is it going to take to get Dale on board on this deal? I came unraveled personally because the mall manager and I must have some sort of personality conflict that is superseding sane logic and good leasing practices. But to have, as a stockholder of the company, to have a mall manager working against a leasing deal at Macerich, that guy would be fired. All I'd have to do is go in and tell the leasing committee, I can just see Dana getting up out of the leasing committee and telling some management guy that guy's gone. It's almost like tortious interference of his own lease. But that's a shame. But is that the ego of a guy trying to save his job? And and that's the interesting point here as a shareholder, when the jobs of the people that are supposed to be out adding value to your stock price aren't doing it because of personality conflicts with local real estate guys like me, that's a shame. So now it's a real quandary. I still get people today wanting to know information about the mall, still asking me, hey, did you get the freezing rolls deal done? How you doing with Pizza Puff? I walked the malls yesterday, and they don't have leasing signs in front of my Pizza Puff. And on the leasing sign, you go to the website, it's some church. Yeah, these are all little things, but in my world, they're big. They're huge. There's been 4 pizza guys go in so Sbarro closed up in the food court. Wheat State Pizza out of business. So Sbarro closes, Wheat State, the Brooklyn Brothers Pizza guys, they're out. I can't remember if there's one in between or not. But now there's La Rocca Pizza, and the La Rocca Pizza guys weren't even offered Pizza Pup. They weren't. I tried to get Pizza Pub. I tried to get La Rocca to take the Pizza Pub location instead of going up to the food court. But anyway, so as a shareholder, without going into any personal ramblings about the company, we'll just say actions speak louder than words. Is this the action? Is this the policy? Is this the way a company does real estate? Is this the way you do it on a nationwide basis? And if we're just so blessed with this here in Topeka, let's do it differently. Sell them all. I would like to try to figure out how to buy it as a business person. The mall is very important to Topeka, but it's also, man, I've made such an investment in time on the deal. I'd love to know how you guys came out and selling the out parcels. Or how did we come out? Now the shares aren't held in the name of Henry McClure. I'm a trustee, and so you can't track and know really how many shares I've owned. But I've told people in the past to buy. I said, hey, look, buy some Washington Prime. I think I could get in here and get some momentum, because I thought, the Great Life deal was, to me, the key. It was the key for me personally. It was the key for the mall. But I think it really would have been a really neat key for Great Life for their ability to expand across the country. I mean, they're a big company. And man, was I excited about developing a mall concept. Now, it's a shame. It's a shame that Pizza Pub had to close. But as Pizza Pub, we've been willing to pay the shortfall in the rent that Freezing Rolls, wasn't going to pay. Freezing Rolls agreed to pay the net charges, based on larger square footage from, and they were loving this idea of having the big seating area for Christmas parties and the ice cream, and they were actually considering maybe putting a couple of the ice cream discs down in the party area, so for faster service and for the parties. I went out and bought a list of pizza people in a 4-state area and emailed them several times. I've created blogs and advertising, to call the leasing guy Paul Katz. I got a cease and desist order from Amy Jonas after Paul. When Paul heard about the hey, how are we going to get Dale on board comment, he got kind of angry. And I think Paul's a cool guy. I mean, his days are up. His days of the mall business are gone. He should retire and enjoy. He had a 30-year run with Simon. He doesn't understand today's leasing, but we bought a list, and I marketed several emails to in a 5-state area, to pizza vendors to take our Pizza Pub. We've made a huge effort to try to mitigate our damages at Pizza Pub. The Freezing Roll guys still want to do the deal. They're in no way Great Life would ever probably do a deal with the existing owner of the mall, but that ship sailed. But here, as a local leasing guy, with all the years experience I have in converting local tenants into the mall business, I'm the best guy to be here locally leasing. And they've pushed me to the limit. Like when Amy sent me that letter, the only person you can talk to is Paul Katz. Well, Paul Katz actually has my number blocked. They blocked my phone number, so I can't talk to him. I know there's a way that I can get to him, but and I'm not going to tell you today how I did it, but Paul Katz will tell you, yeah, some guy. So the one guy that they want me to talk to, somebody from IT blocks my phone number. And I said to Paul, we were laughing the other day, I said, for all you know, I could be in the home office of in Columbus. So by going through the switchboard in Columbus, it looks like he's getting a call from the home office, and Paul always takes those calls. So I don't know how to do. I don't know how I could ever bring another tenant to the mall. I feel that you owe me the commission on. I feel you owe McClure Real Estate the commission for the Freezing Rolls deal. But so when I come to you today with a heartfelt understanding, I wear many hats. A very small stockholder, a very concerned citizen of Topeka, a real estate broker that wants to make money putting tenants into the mall, who's the best at it in the city, but I'll bet you I'm probably one of the best leasing guys that you'd ever have at Washington Prime. Um, and as a business owner of Pizza Pup. So, I definitely want to put this behind me. And at at my church at Grace Cathedral, this being a Sunday, the Episcopalians have confession in open in the open church. So these are true confessions of a stockholder, leasing agent, and business owner who's very frustrated with the management of a company that I don't think is ever going to make me any money as a stockholder. So I'm going to send this to one of the board to the board of directors of the company, and I would like to read the nifty white papers that Lou Conforti wrote about his portfolio. If any of my fellow shareholders that have read the nifty white papers, it's the same thing. It's the stuff that he talked about on Cramer's stock show, Jim Cramer. But anyway, sad day. But the truth and my First Amendment rights, I got to get this out of my system. I need help. I want to do the freezing roll deal today. I want to do it in Pizza Pup. I like to try to figure out how to do more deals with the company. But boy, things have got to change. Henry McClure live in Topeka, Kansas, coming to you as a shareholder of the Washington Prime Group. I don't have enough stock to create a proxy war. But anyway, heartfelt input as a real estate guy, seasoned veteran in the mall business, and a owner of a failed business. Had to close it due to losses and foot traffic down. Need your help. Henry McClure Live.